Hello everyone, all 22 and a few film review, giving you guys the next episode of Draft Grabs, my draft class analysis series where we dive deep into all 32 classes, letting you guys know how I feel about every pick, according to my big board, who's left on the board positionally, is it a team need, is it a scheme fit, we'll be talking about the paths for starting for all these players, as well as kind of immediate role projections, if I see that for the player. So if you want to learn more about the Patriots class that we're going to be talking today, or kind of any of the other 131 classes in the NFL, make sure you go through the channel, subscribe, stick around as we round out this series here. Very, very glad to be back, giving you guys the conclusion to this series after a short medical hiatus. Sorry about that, but we're back. The last, this video and 3 other videos should be rolling out here very soon, so we could wrap up this series and then go into summer scouting. But like I said, we're going to be talking about the Patriots today. Very excited to talk about this class with you guys. My number 4 overall class for this kind of NFL drafting season, getting a 3.3798 numerical grade, a true A for me. That numerical grade coming from an equation that I made for you guys so you guys can have a more concrete feel about how I feel about all these classes, stacking up grades with the same letter grade, seeing how far your different drafts are from each other. Kind of just a little fun extra exercise for us to come back to, see where I was right, see where I was wrong. Videos more about the analysis per pick and all that good stuff. But like I said, just a little extra fun thing for you. A true A for me, very, very good class, a very large class, so let's hop into it here. They go Will Campbell first, a tackle out of LSU, then Travion Henderson, a running back out of Ohio State, Kyle Williams, a wide receiver out of Washington State, Gerald Wilson, a center out of Georgia, Craig Woodson, a safety out of California, Joshua Farmer, an IDL out of Florida State, Braden Swinson, an edge out of LSU, Andres Barragales, a kicker out of Miami, Marcus Bryant, a tackle out of Mizzou, Julian Ashby, a long snapper out of Vanderbilt, and Kobe Minor, a corner out of Memphis. A lot of picks for this team here. I really, really liked the way they attacked the board, getting all the positions I really wanted them to go after, and then getting a lot of trade backs just to get, as many swings as possible. As we get into the draft, the best kind of GMs realize that every pick you have in the draft is a lottery pick, and the best way to win the lottery is to have as many swings as you possibly can. We see that with the perfect examples of Howie Roseman with the Eagles and Eric DeCosta with the Ravens. 2 teams that just let value picks come to them and constantly trade back to get more swings, and then you let your coaches and your culture develop these athletes and become into very, very good role players and starters for you down the line. Really like the way they targeted this class, getting a lot of trade downs, getting a lot of swings, because this team needs all the swings they can get. Their first pick with Will Campbell, let's talk about it. A tackle out of LSU, taking that pick for no trade compensation on this one. I really, really like this pick for them. A pick I made for them in my what I would do mock and my final predictive mock as well. I really wanted them to go after Will Campbell. I thought they would. No disrespect to Viridian Lowe's game, but with that room the way it is, how that O-line played the way they did last year, you really needed to bring more bodies into this room, and I feel like the easiest upgrade for them was bringing in Will Campbell. Now, I did have Armand Membu ranked above him. Will Campbell was my 2nd overall tackle in this class, only behind Armand Membu. But when we're talking about drafting a left tackle for them, I would rather them go after a guy who's played his whole career at left tackle than a guy who's played his career at right tackle. Much easier transition when you're playing the position you already played, rather than bringing a guy over from right to left tackle, especially when there's such similar players on my board. Like I said, had Will Campbell 6, I had Armand Membu 3, so if you're going to be that closely graded together, I'd rather pick the guy who has played left tackle. There has been a lot of concern, through the draft process about Will Campbell's arm length. It does come into play at times, but I'm not concerned about it for him. This guy is such a technical wizard at the left tackle position. It also has all the athleticism you would want in a left tackle. Super technically sound with his hands, knows how to vary up his punches and how he punches with his hands, marries his hands with his feet, can match any edge rusher around the edge with pure athleticism. Very technical in seeing blitzes and stunts. Where you see that arm length come into play is his technical pad level isn't great at times. He gets very inconsistent with his knee bend. And when he plays higher and he kind of loses that leverage to edge defenders, it allows edge defenders to get in his chest very, very easily. Marrying shorter arm length with playing higher, it allows these edges to fly off the edge, keep their low leverage, get in his chest, where they're going to have similar or longer arm length to him, and then he can't just re-land his hands after that. It's kind of really hard for him to re-land those hands, especially when he has shorter arms than the guy he's trying to go up against. And that's when you see him lose around the edge. He really tries to lean really hard and recover his hands. He dips his head. That's when people pull him, or, just drive him back. Now, like I said, he is very technically sound. When he does get low, it's not a problem for him. So if you can get his pad level a little bit more consistent, play with more consistent knee bend, then I'm not worried about him being over at left tackle at all. Like, really at all. I think he is still a super, super good tackle with a ton of upside. Just like I said, just needs to get his technical pad level a little bit lower, play with a little bit more knee bend, and he'll just be all right. A 6'6", 319-pound tackle with all the effort and the motor in the world. Like I said, all the athleticism, very strong player as well. Going to be 21 at the beginning of his rookie season. Going to turn 22 towards the very end of it. Put up a 9.91 RAS. Like I said, this guy moves exceptionally well. Gets off the ball. Very high motor player. Very, very nice work ethic. This guy's been playing over at LSU forever. On 558 pass block snaps, he only allowed 2 sacks, 5 hits, and 11 hurries. A 2024 first-team All-American and a 2-time first-team SEC selection in 2023 and 2024. Also won the Jacobs Blocking Trophy, kind of a co-winner with Kelvin Banks out of Texas. That award for the best blocking player in the SEC. A very, very good player. I gave this an A. This is right around the kind of value you should be able to get this player. Like I said, I had 1 tackle above him, but Armand Membu was more of a right tackle to me, and Will Campbell is the best left tackle, pure left tackle on the board, in my opinion. I think he can play left tackle. I'm not too worried about it. And if it does show up as a consistent problem for him, you could slide him into guard, where he'll be exceptional at guard as well. So very, very, very solid pick to me again, an A. Their next pick, they go Travion Henderson, a running back out of Ohio State, with the 38th pick, the 6th pick of the second round. No trade compensation on this one. Really, really like this pick for them a lot. Got an A+ for me. Not only was he 28 on my big board, so I think this is very nice value for him, but he was my 3rd overall running back, only behind Ashton Genty and Omarion Hampton, taking us the 4th running back on the board. So positionally, I think it's a great value for him too. And I think this is the perfect fit for this team, the absolute perfect fit at running back for this team. Not only does he give them some home run potential and a little bit more juice, but this running back room has been a little bit more shaky. I'm a big fan of Ramondre Stevenson, but he's had a lot of problems staying healthy, staying on the field. And Antonio Gibson, much more of a scat back than a true 3-down running back. So bringing Travion Henderson, who can be a 3-down bell cow potentially for you, offers a lot of creativity and home run ability in the running game. Very, very nice outrunning ability in the pass game. Also has the perfect pass blocking tape of any running back I've ever seen coming out. This guy is an electric pass blocker. A weird thing to get excited about, I know, but look up this man's pass blocking highlights, because he absolutely deletes blitzers. Very good vision as a blocker, stays low, keeps his hands inside, and just explodes into people. Another reason why he's a perfect fit for this team. Like I talked about with the Will Campbell pick, they've had a lot of suspect line play, over this last year. So bringing in a running back who can really help out your O-line when you keep him in to block, just perfect for this team. Just really helps out this O-line, and they need that help. A 5'10", 202 running back, not the biggest back in the world, but very shifty, has surprising contact balance for that size. When he builds up his speed and goes downhill with that kind of low center of gravity, he can put people on their butt and he can run through people. Very, very shifty runner as well. Very creative in the open field. I'm a big Travion Henderson fan. Going to be 23 towards the kind of mid to late end of his rookie season. Put up an 8.87 RAS, mostly held down to those size measurables, but a very, very good athlete and a very, very nice player. Had 1,016 yards, splitting time, kind of with Quinshon Judkins this last year at Ohio State. 10 rushing touchdowns, 7.1 yards per carry, which is very nice for a running back, especially playing in the Big Ten. Had 27 receptions on 30 targets for 284 yards and a touchdown, 0 fumbles on the season. Was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school and a 2024 third-team Big Ten selection. Was a first-team Big Ten selection last year when he kind of had more of that full starting plate. A 2021 freshman All-American for Ohio State as well, and a 4-year starter. This guy has been productive for 4 years at Ohio State. Has been a very, very fun player to watch. Very nice tape. Big fan of Travion Henderson. He just does the things that kind of running back coaches look for. Very high effort, very shifty. Doesn't have the best vision in the world. I think his vision kind of gets undersold. It's not like he's got bad vision or vision that's going to keep him off the field. It's not Quinshon Judkins level, definitely not towards the higher end of this class, but he has solid vision, and he's going to be coming to more of a gap style scheme. So I really, really like this for him, honestly. Like I said, fits this room very, very well. An A+ for me. Really like that pick. Their next pick, they go Kyle Williams, a wide receiver out of Washington State with the 69th pick, the 5th pick of the 3rd round. No trade compensation on this one again. I really, really like this pick. An A for me. He was my 60th player on my big board, so I think this is pretty good value you're getting for him. He was my 9th overall receiver and the 9th one taken off the board. So in terms of positional value, I think this is also very, very good for this type of player. A guy who I thought should have gone towards the end of the 2nd round. This is kind of more of an A+ value or closer to it, but he's going to a very, very crowded room. They bring in Stephon Diggs in free agency. They bring in Matt Collins in free agency. Demario Douglas has been a very, very fun kind of slot/gadget type player for them. They got some pretty meaningful snaps out of Kayshon Boutte last year. They take Jalen Polk and Javon Baker on day 2 and early day 3 last year. So a ton of rooms, a very crowded room, a ton of bodies for him to kind of work through to get playing time, especially because I think he's a little redundant to the role that Stephon Diggs is going to be playing. That's kind of a true separating Z type player. So I think he is going to be backing up Stephon Diggs in that role, especially if he can work through these other bodies. That's kind of why it gets more of an A opposed to an A+ for me. Still a very good player. I expect him to more than easily make this roster and to get a solid amount of snaps this season, especially, since this room was pretty suspect last year. They put a ton of capital into this room lately. Hasn't all kind of come back for them. Also kind of forgot to talk about Kendrick Bourne as another player who is going to be fighting for reps in this receiver room. A very, very crowded room, but I expect him to kind of be their wide receiver 4 or 5, taking those spots behind Stephon Diggs, who you don't know if you're going to be able to get a full healthy season or the type of play you're going to get from him at this point. 5'11", 190-pound wide receiver, going to be 23 kind of towards the end of his rookie season. Put up a 6.34 RAS. Not the most athletic tester, but a very athletic player. He didn't run his agilities, and I think if he did, it would have raised this up a lot more. Also kind of held down by the fact that he is 5'11", 190. But a very, very fun kind of true 3-tier separator at the Z position. Makes a lot of pirouetted catches. He's got a lot of body control. Not the most contested catches, 50-50 balls or catching balls over the middle. But this guy is a very, very nice separator and adds a lot of kind of upside to this room that they don't necessarily have right now. This guy can be a true starting number 2 for you in the Z. So in terms of just long-term Z capability, I think this is a great pick for this room. Don't know if he's absolutely going to flash or go off his rookie season because, like I said, it is a very crowded room. Still a very good player, especially for this spot. Had 70 receptions on 101 targets for 1,198 yards, 14 touchdowns, and only 5 drops on the season. A 2-year starter at Washington State, spent his previous 3 years at UNLV, where he was the Mountain West Conference Freshman of the Year in 2020. A lot of story production for him at not the highest levels of competition, but a very, very nice player with a lot of upside. Again, it's an A for me. Their next pick, they go Jared Wilson, a center out of Georgia, with the 95th pick, the 31st pick of the 3rd round. Getting this from a trade down with the Chiefs, setting over 85 for 95, and getting a 4th round in next year's class. I absolutely love that trade compensation for them, honestly. You're not moving back far. It's at the very end of the 3rd round. You're picking up an extra 4th. Like I said with this team earlier, they need all the swings they can get to try to just overall boost this roster. So, again, I really like that trade value for them. This would be an A+ pick for me in a very, very slim center class. Jared Wilson was my top-ranked center, 87 on my big board, taking out 95. I think that is pretty nice overall value. Was my 7th overall interior line. If you kind of group center and guard together, he was the 9th one taken off the board. So positionally, I think it's great value for him. Like I said, it was a very, very slim center class. He was my top-ranked center. If you don't view Gray Zabel as a center, I should say. The fact you're able to get him at the very end of the 3rd round, very, very good value in my opinion. Now, this doesn't get an A+ for me. It gets an A because he doesn't have a true clear path to starting. He is going to be sitting behind Garrett Bradbury, who they get over from Minnesota, and they kind of have their guard spots taken out with Cole Strange and Mike Onwenu. So sort of interesting path for him, but I think down the line, this is a guy who you can mold into your long-term center option or just plug and play in one of your guard spots if someone goes down with an injury or you kind of don't retain any of those guys at the end of the season. Really, really like Jared Wilson, a very, very kind of young, athletic, full-size center at 6'3", 310, only 22 in his rookie season, put up a 9.84 RAS. In his first year coming off the reserves, was a 2024 second-team All-SEC selection, allowing 0 sacks, 1 hit, and only 5 hurries on over 500 pass block snaps. The fact that this guy is 6'4", over 300, which is nice size for a center, a very athletic tester, and only in his first year of starting put up that kind of production, you feel like his best football is ahead of him, and you feel like you can mold him in kind of any role you want. A very, very high upside type player. I really like this for this line. Like I said, probably not a true starter year one, but someone that's going to mold into any one of these 3 interior spots for this team down the road. A very, very athletic piece who loves to get on the move, a very high motor type player. Doesn't do the best at staying on blocks or moving people in kind of man gap systems. A lot better in reach, kind of zone type of blocking. Needs to work on his anchor, but decently kind of matches his hands with his feet well in pass protection. Sees stunts honestly decently well for a first-year player. Still has a little bit of room to grow in that sense. I absolutely love the value for them, and especially because they need kind of higher upside ability on this line. They need more depth. Don't know if he's going to start at any point during the season unless there is injury to this line, but down the road, this should be a very, very nice starter for this line. Their next pick, they go Craig Woodson, a safety out of Cal. The 106th pick, the 4th pick of the 4th round, no trade compensation on this one. This Scott and I like it. Now, a quick reminder as we get into our day 3 grades, these grades are going to be put on a different scale than day 1 and 2. Day 1 and 2, teams are kind of drafting much more according to their big board, taking BPA and BPA 4 needs, best player available. Going to be graded a lot more harder on a letter grade basis. Day 3, you're much more upgrading aspects of a position, trying to fill roles in a position that you don't necessarily have. Maybe it's a deep threat receiver in a room with not a lot of juice, a giant 6'6", 340-pound meat clogger in a D-line room with not a lot of size or a lack of run defending ability, getting a safety that's a little bit oversized and converting them to linebacker to help the pass coverage ability of your linebacker room, kind of stuff like that. Going to be graded on an I love it, I like it, I see the vision, or I don't get a basis, a little bit way less in the grade. If you want a more concrete definition, it'll be down in the description kind of each of those tiers. And if you have any other questions about anything you're seeing on the board, anything I'm talking about, it should be down there. If it's not, come scream at me in the comments, as well as, talk with me about ball in the comments in general. Love talking ball with you guys. Love hearing constructive criticism, all that good stuff. So leave your thoughts below, get stuff off your chest below. Always love seeing it. But like I said, this gets an I like it pick. I really like Craig Woodson. I thought he was a late 3rd, early 4th type guy. So I think this is kind of right around the value you should be able to get him. Now, his path to playing is a little bit murky. Historically, in the Belichickian systems, they love using 3 safeties, and they have 2 really good ones in Kyle Duggar and Jabril Peppers. So, we'll see if Vrabel kind of continues that kind of tradition of using a lot of 3 safety looks. But besides those 2 guys, they honestly kind of have a lot of guys in that room already. They bring in Marcus Epps over from Las Vegas, who isn't the most highest upside guy, but a very solid body. And then they also have Marte Mapu, who I really liked out of Sac State, getting drafted in the 3rd round 2 years ago. So, it's interesting kind of them taking Craig Woodson here. It kind of makes you think what they think of Marte Mapu. A little bit kind of not clear path to starting for him. A lot of bodies in that room. But this is someone who I think can definitely kind of compete for one of those deep safety spots when they want to bring Jabril Peppers or Kyle Duggar kind of more downhill. Not the most athletic safety in the world, but has athleticism that you're definitely fine with on the back end. Has pretty solid eyes, needs to work on the timing of his trigger and his angles. But this is a guy with a pretty solid amount of upside who could definitely be a very nice role-playing safety for you. I think this is good value for him. Just a little bit murky in terms of his path to starting. A 6', 200-pound safety, going to be 24 in his rookie season, put up an 8.75 RAS, 2 interceptions, 7 PBUs, 70 tackles, 2.5 TFLs, and only 12 missed tackles on the season. Definitely not bad production at this spot in the draft. A 2024 ACC third-team selection and a 3-year starter over at Cal. A very, very fun player to watch. Decently high upside, and it can be a very nice role player for this team. We'll see how soon he can get on the field with kind of the other bodies in the room, but down the line, this should be a very nice player for this team. Their next pick, they go Joshua Farmer, an IDL out of Florida State, with the 137th pick, the 35th pick of the 4th round. Getting this from a trade-up this time, sending over 144 and 238 to the Seahawks for 137. I like this pick for them, honestly. I thought Joshua Farmer was a 4th-round type of guy, so getting him at the back end of the 4th I think is very nice value for him. He's coming to a room where I think he's going to fit in very well. Going into the draft process, when we had a little bit more uncertainty about Christian Barmore's blood clot situation, I really wanted them to get more IDLs in this room, especially considering their depth. Now, they do bring in Milton Williams on a really big deal. They do bring in Kyrus Tonga, I believe it is, on a much cheaper deal. Those are kind of your starting 3 when they go in their early down, more base formations where they run a lot of 5-1, kind of 3-4, kind of mixed fronts. Mike Vrabel, much more of a 3-4 type base guy. We'll see what he does. He is someone who played under Bill Belichick and has some Belichickian roots, but has definitely deviated from the true kind of Belichickian 5-1, 3-3-5, 3-4, 4-3, kind of a lot of mixed variable fronts for that team. We'll see how he uses this kind of group. But Josh Farmer, like I said, I wanted them to get more depth because outside of those 3 guys in that room, like I mentioned, not a ton of depth, not anyone you're really writing home about, not a lot of high upside guys that you're developing. So you're getting a guy who honestly produced very well early in his career at Florida State, close to a full-sized guy at 6'3", 305, who adds a lot of pass rush upside, not a ton of pass rush floor, but upside I definitely like for that room. Going to be 23 towards the end of his rookie season, put up a 7.89 RAS. Not a bad athlete, not an exceptional one, but definitely one you feel good about on your interior D-line, and I think he fits really well in this scheme where he can line up over a 3-tech, line up in a 4-eye, shade inside the guard in the center on the inside shade of the guard. Really just kind of penetrate for this team. Definitely like that for this team. Had 4 sacks, 6 hurries, and 8 TFLs on the season. 32 total tackles, no turnovers or ball production for him on the season. A 2024 ACC honorable mention and a 2023 second team ACC selection. Like I said, flashed a lot earlier in his career. That play fell off a tiny bit towards the end, but he was playing on a very, very poor defense, so it's not like he was getting a ton of help from the bodies around him. Also, was the defensive freshman kind of player of the year for Florida State in 2022. A lot of upside with this guy if you can kind of get him back into that mold, but we'll see. Definitely has some very nice guys to learn from and develop behind. So down the line in a couple years, I wouldn't be surprised if this is a very quality starter or rotational body for this guy. Should fight for that second rotation, that 4th IDL spot sooner than later. Like I said, the depth on this line is definitely not great. Their next pick, they go Braden Switson, an edge out of LSU with the 146th pick, the 8th pick of the 5th round. Getting this as part of a trade down earlier with the Panthers. They sent the Panthers 77 to get 85, which allowed them to then move to get 95 and a 2026 4th. They also get pick 146 from this pick, which I absolutely love, and I love it pick for them. I really wanted them to get edge. Now they do bring in Harold Landry, who has not played great recently, but was drafted by Mike Vrabel over at the Titans. He is a Mike Vrabel guy, so I could see why they want to bring him in the building. They also have Anthony Jennings, who isn't the most highest upside as a pass rusher. They have Keon White, who kind of moves up and down the line for them, has been playing better, more of a high upside guy, but not like a full-time 3-down edge. And then they also have Arden Key, who definitely doesn't move the needle for you at this point in his career. Wanted them to get an edge, has a lot more pass rush upside. They get Braden Swinson at this point because he falls due to kind of character concerns, more not like off the field issues, but mental makeup kind of concerns that kind of came out during the draft. This is a guy who should have went in the 2nd round to me, someone who made my top 10 edge rushers, a very, very fun player with a lot of athleticism, a ton of get off, and a ton of power rushing off the wide 9. Also more of a full-sized edge rusher at 6'4", 255. Like I said, a lot of get off, a lot of power, sees the game a little bit faster and diagnoses the run on a more consistent basis than his teammate, Savion Jones, but has a little bit of a worse base. Still can develop into a solid run defender, but this is more of a very high upside, powerful rusher. I love getting him in the 5th round for this team. Should compete for their 3rd or 4th edge spot immediately, in my opinion, due to the upside and the athleticism, the power. Now, we'll see how soon, he can kind of prove himself to this coaching staff and prove that he really wants to work hard and stay on the field. Like in a year or two, this is a potential starting rusher for you on the outside, and someone with the upside to be a very productive edge rusher in this league. I absolutely love it for this group. Had 8.5 sacks on the season, 12 hurries, 13 TFLs, 58 tackles, 3 PBUs, and 2 forced fumbles. You love to see that production. A 2024 second-team SEC selection in his first year at LSU after transferring from Oregon, spending his first 3 years at Oregon. A very, very fun player. Really, really love this value for him. Shouldn't have fell down this far, but in a very deep edge class, if you aren't very, endowed or enamored with someone's mental makeup, you're probably not going to go after him when you feel like there's a lot of other similar type of producing bodies. It was a very nice edge class, so not the biggest shock to see him fall due to the situation, but he goes to a team that really needs the pass rush upside, and I think he's going to compete for snaps for this team immediately and be a very nice player for them down the line. Their next pick, they go Andres Borregales out of Miami, a kicker taken with the 182nd pick, the 6th pick of the 6th round, with the trade down, sending over 171 to the Lions for 182 and 228. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of drafting kickers, but this was a team who really doesn't have a surefire kicker on the roster. They absolutely need one. And if you want to get your guy, if you want to make sure you get the kicker you want to get, you had to take him at this spot. The Ravens take Tyler Loop just a few picks later. So if they didn't take him here, they weren't probably going to get the kicker they wanted to get, if the Ravens wanted Andres over Tyler Loop. Remains to be seen. But this was a very, very nice kicker. I expected him to be drafted if a, kicker was going to be drafted. A 5'11", 199-pound player, not the biggest guy in the world, going to be 23, kind of towards the mid-late of his rookie season. In 2024, had 94.7 completion percentage, completing a ton of field goals, was 100% accurate on extra points, which you love to see. Only had 2 makes over 50 yards, but it was only on 2 attempts. So you love to see 100% from 50 plus. Had a long of 56. So remains to be seen, kind of the true power of his leg. 56 was the long in his career. Wasn't really tasked with kicking a ton of super long field goals, but we'll see. I think it is still a very solid player, very solid value. Like I said, a kicker gets taken 4 spots later, so they really wanted a kicker. They really wanted Andre. They had to take him right here. A 4-year starter for Miami. This guy has been kicking forever. A 2-time first-team ACC selection in 2023 and 2024. Set his school record for points with 405 points total. And I like a pick. Very solid pick in my opinion. Their next pick, they go Marcus Bryant, a tackle out of Mizzou, with the 220th pick, the 4th pick of the 7th round. I honestly liked it. Now, they do have a little bit of a crowded room, especially after taking Will Campbell. They bring in Morgan Moses to be their right tackle. They have Iridian Lowe, who played some snaps for them last year. And they also have a guy who they drafted in the 4th last year, but someone who was taken on day 2 of last year. So a little bit of a crowded room, but this was a guy who I think is a great value, someone who I thought should have went somewhere in the 6th round. So the fact you're getting him in the 7th at this size of 6'7", 320, 8.99, not the most agile guy, but a lot of get off, a lot of length, a ton of upside at that size. I really, really like the value for this team, especially because, like I said, the line play has been suspect for him, but there is a solid amount of dudes in that room. So it is going to be an uphill climb for him to make that roster. Going to be 23-year-old rookie on 385 pass block snaps, allowed 5 sacks and 3 hits. Couldn't find the total hurries. I'm sorry, a lot of these guys that don't have super high draft pedigrees, a lot harder to find the more specific stats. So apologies, couldn't find that one for him. But a 3-year starter over at Mizzou with a lot of size, like I said, a lot of length, some athletic upsides, upside. If this guy can develop, maybe you see him as your right tackle of the future. If you don't really love the guy who you drafted on day 2 last year, Morgan Moses, not a long-term option at this point. Still a very good tackle, but definitely older. You need someone more long-term, so I definitely don't hate it. We'll see if he makes this roster. If he doesn't, I don't think he is an absolute kind of practice squad steal for another team. I think you are probably safe stashing him on your practice squad, so I don't think it's a bad pick for them, and I like it. Their next pick, they go Julian Ashby, a long snapper out of Vanderbilt, with the 251st pick, the 35th pick of the 7th round. Getting this as part of a trade down with the Chiefs, sending over 228 for 251 and 257. I like it for them. Like I said, they need all the swings they can get. They needed a long snapper. They didn't have one on roster, so I absolutely love them getting Julian Ashby, honestly. If you are going to take a long snapper, take him with the very last few picks in the 7th round, especially considering the type of long snapper they got. This is a guy who's 6'1", 231. It's honestly pretty thick, and he has an 8.530 RAS. He's very athletic for 6'3", 231, considering he's not, playing a offense or defensive position. This is a guy who can definitely fly down on punts and, maybe on special teams and make some tackles for you. Maybe you transition him into a fullback at 6'1", 231, puts 10, 15 pounds on him. He's a real thick build at that point. So I honestly don't hate this at all. He's going to have a starting position immediately because they don't have a long snapper on roster. Had 114 snaps in 2024, a ton of snaps. Also had 2 tackles over on their opponent unit. So this is a guy who can wrap up and make some plays. Like I said, athletic for a long snapper. Was his first year over at Vanderbilt. Spent his prior 4 years over at Furman, an FCS school. So, not a bad pick. Like I said, he's going to come in and start right away. Getting that at the very back end of the 7th, not bad at all, and I like it pick. Their next pick, they go Kobe Minor, a corner out of Memphis, with the 257th pick, the 41st pick of the 7th round, the Mr. Irrelevant pick. Hard to give this an IC division because it is the last pick in the draft, but I did get it an IC division. If you wanted to draft a DB, I feel like some of these undrafted bodies were a lot better. Mainly talking about the 2 corners out of Kansas, Kobe Bryant, Mello Dotson, who I thought were definitely draftable players, especially Kobe Bryant. I thought was more of a 4th round guy. Now is kind of a Kobe Bryant I'm talking about, more of a size outlier, very, very thin, not super athletic, but super high motor, and honestly some solid technique for his lack of athleticism. A guy who's not afraid to do anything for you on the field. I thought he should have been drafted 100%. Don't understand necessarily the pick getting Kobe Minor. Has a little bit of an uphill battle coming to play for this team. We talk about all the safeties that they already have. They have Christian Gonzalez. They have Marcus Jones, who I really like in the slot. They bring in Carlton Davis, who's not a bad body, on a really, really big deal. Didn't love the deal, but definitely a solid number 2 corner. They have Marcellus Diaz, who they took in the 6th round last year. Craig Woodson, going to be kind of competing for that deep slot position, maybe a deep rotation safety / slot role. So in terms of getting him on the field immediately, don't think the path is 100% clear for him. Also a guy who really isn't athletic at all, put up a 2.93 RAS, did not test well at all, also a little bit undersized at 5'11", 188. Someone who I didn't really necessarily think was a draftable guy, especially with the other DBs on the board. I just didn't really get it. Now, he did have 6 PBUs on the season at Memphis in his first year at Memphis. Not the biggest level of competition, no interceptions, but 6 PBUs is not bad. 38 tackles, 2 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, but a 96.2 passer rating allowed in coverage when targeted. Not good at all. In his first year at Memphis, spent 1 year at Indiana and 3 years at Texas Tech. Like I said, not athletic, undersized, not great production, not playing at a very high level of competition. Didn't really think he was a draftable player. Going to be a very uphill battle for him to get on the field, and I'm not necessarily sure he makes the roster. I thought there was other corners you definitely could have taken to have a better chance to make the roster, so we'll see how it works for him. Like I said, hard to give it an IC division because it is the last pick in the draft, but still, I didn't really see this pick for them. Honestly, I didn't really get it. This was the Patriots class, a very good class in my opinion. Hit their needs from top to bottom and got a lot of good values in this class. Even if not a ton of these guys are going to be starting immediately, Down the line, this team is going to be set up very well. They have a lot of high upside bodies. And got a lot of people that are going to be playing significant roles or snaps, not in year 1, in year 2, and down the line. Really, really, really liked a lot of the bodies they got in this class. Absolutely happy for them that they got Will Campbell. Really wanted them to do that. I thought Travion Henderson was a great fit for this team. Really wanted them to take him as well. Very, very nice fit. Kyle Williams, a lot of upside. He's going to be taking over that Z position for them long term, in my opinion. Jared Wilson might not get a ton of snaps year 1, but a very high upside, athletic, full-size type interior with center long-term capability, or starting capability, I should say. Craig Woodson going to a little bit of a crowded room, but someone that can definitely carve out a role sooner than later. Joshua Farmer should compete for a lot of snaps, kind of rotating in that first rotation or second rotation if they're getting into pass sets. Braden Swinson, someone who has the upside to take over this edge room as one of their starting guys. Getting a starting kicker, and Borregales. Getting a high upside, very, very long, full-size tackle, and Marcus Bryant. Getting a starting long snapper, and then getting a guy who's going to fight for the roster on kind of as a DB. A very, very good class. If you like to listen to me rant about the Patriots this long, please let me know down below. Let me know with a comment. Let me know with a like. Even if you don't, I really do appreciate you getting to this point in the video. It means the world to me to see people kind of coming in and interacting, even just watching to this point. I've been getting a lot more traction with these videos than I thought I would be kind of starting this account a few months ago. So I really do appreciate all the support. I really do appreciate all the love. Thank you guys, and I hope you have a great day.